On this one-year anniversary of President Trump's inauguration, the government has shut down. Good Sunday morning, and thanks for watching CBS North Carolina News. I'm JustinQuesinberry. We're following breaking news. CBS North Carolina has learned Governor Pat McCrory is conceding the race for governor. Chapel Hill police need your help to find a suspect in a bank robbery. Take a close look at these pictures. With the freezing temperatures overnight, there could be some icy patches greeting drivers. I certainly saw it this morning on my way in. CBS North Carolina's Colleen Quigley talked with those people out and about, including kids who are ready to get back into their routines. He said no party gets it right all the time, and certainly one of the most contentious issues between the two parties in the legislature has been House Bill 2, and he certainly addressed that this morning. You know, this wreck happened more than 6 hours ago, and still crews remain here on the scene. Well, this all started, deputies say, when that man crashed his car, then went to the woman's door and kicked and pushed his way in. Big change, big flakes, actually. Just within the last half hour, we noticed a few flakes mixed in with the rain that we've been seeing all morning. But I want you to take a look at this massive tree. We're told that this was probably about 200 years old, one of several that has fallen here on the Stark family's property. You can see it has fallen here in their yard, coming very close to their house. A Durham police officer is receiving praise for his heroic actions during this week's snowstorm. He jumped into freezing water to save a woman and her daughter. CBS North Carolina's Derek Lewis spoke with that officer, who tells us what went through his mind during the rescue. If you're heading outside this weekend, please be careful. Since Tuesday, Wake Med tells us the ER there treated 11 people for heat-related illnesses.
Okay.
Bill, let's head on over now to Todd Gibson. He's got a look at another summertime favorite, not just fireworks and cooking out, baseball. For the second time in less than 24 hours, he's addressing the violence back home, this time in Dallas, Texas, where we have 11 officers shot, 5 dead, 6 injured, and a civilian also shot. Cumberland County was one of the areas that we saw things getting pretty bad early on. However, now here in Wake County, things are starting to get pretty bad as well. We saw Ali Warshawski's live shot there a few moments ago, and now we've learned that Crabtree Valley Mall will be closing at 1:30 today. So what about Hillary Clinton? I mean, her campaign has been dealing with the leaked emails from her campaign chair. Well, Sean and Sharon, the smell is still in the air here this evening, and you can see on the ground ashes covering the pavement out here. It sounds like there's a lot of frustration among many veterans when it comes to accessing benefits. How did that apply to your father, you think?
Well, I think my father, his retreat was when he came home.
We'd like to thank each and every one of you who participated in CBS North Carolina's annual toy drive, Stock the Sled, yesterday. Again, this playing out live in Durham has been now for about an hour and 15 minutes. This group started assembling around noon. We weren't exactly sure what group this was when they first arrived on the scene because we had heard rumors circulating on social media that a KKK rally might be planned for the noon hour. Welcome back on a cold February morning.
Well, it is February. It's still winter.
It is, and it feels like it this morning, though.
Yeah, it is. It is cold.
I think I had gotten used to slightly warmer temperatures.
A little spoiled.
A little spoiled,
Reminds you of the beginning of January, doesn't it?
Yeah. If it's hot, she doesn't like it. Nope. If it's cold, she doesn't like it. If it's somewhere in the middle.
That's perfect.
Nothing's changed in the last few weeks, I can see.
3 national championships, of course, including the one they took home a little earlier this month.
And we learned something new from Justin today.
He coached basketball at my high school.
Who knew?
How about that?
It's really cool.
And yet you decided to give up your eligibility to come anchor with us.
Believe it or not, yeah. And I'll do it again at 11. We'll see you then.
Great night. We'll see you then. Have a great night.
North Carolina News starts now.
Hey, good morning. 8 o'clock on the dot. The sun is up and shining bright over Raleigh right now, and that is good news. Get rid of any remaining snow and ice that's out there, and we've got a beautiful day ahead. So says meteorologist Kristen Ketchell. I'll let her explain all of that. I'm JustinQuesinberry.
And I'm meteorologist Kristen Ketchell. We are talking about some warm temperatures today. It's nice to finally get some warmth in here because the snow looks ugly at this point.
Yeah.
It's so sad to see, you know, all the black and brown snow and the dirty snow off to the side of the road.
The beauty has worn off.
Yeah, the beauty's worn off. Now it's time for it just to get out of here.
I think so.
Yes.
Thank you, Kristen. And we want to show you a live look from Washington, D.C. right there. The sun up in the sky, of course. Well, lawmakers there in D.C. appear to still be struggling to find enough common ground to end the government shutdown. The House passed a spending bill late last week that would have kept the lights on for another month, but the measure hit a snag in the Senate where legislators spent most of Saturday blaming one another for the shutdown. The funding proposal includes a guaranteed vote in the Senate on DACA, but Democrats are worried the bill will then die in the House.
Give us a vote in the Senate and guarantee us a vote in the House. If you have a vote in the Senate, it means absolutely nothing because you have stalemate.
I think we look petty. We look that we care more about the party flag than the American flag.
The Senate will be back in session again today. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says there won't be another vote on the funding bill until 1 a.m. tomorrow. Governor Roy Cooper issued a statement expressing his disappointment in Congress and the president for failing to fund the government. Cooper says, quote, North Carolina families need to know that my administration will work to continue services and soften the blow in our state. North Carolina lawmakers are also responding. Democratic Congressman G.K. Butterfield says, in part, quote, Republicans continue to push a far-right agenda that favors the few at the expense of the many. Republican Senator Tom Tillis says, quote, the only way this shutdown will end is if my Democratic colleagues will come to their senses and stop trying to score political points at the expense of the American people. Back closer to home, the shutdown is leading to the closure of most of the facilities for the Blue Ridge Parkway. And Fort Bragg officials say services are, quote, severely reduced. Other national landmarks and historic sites across the nation are closed. From Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming to the St. Louis Arch that you saw right there, closed signs hang across the country. In New York City, some visitors traveled thousands of miles to see the Statue of Liberty, where they were met with disappointment.
Well, we traveled all the way from Europe to go here. We purchased tickets, knowing that one needs to purchase tickets about half a year before one wants to go up the Crown, and now we found out that it's closed.
We're very disappointed. We're from Illinois, and we were expecting to be able to see it, but obviously Congress had other plans.
There are a few exceptions, though. The Smithsonian Museums will be up and running tomorrow, along with the National Zoo in D.C. Officials say they are using leftover money from previous years. There will be much more reaction to the shutdown and the efforts to end it later this morning on Face the Nation with John Dickerson. You can watch that right here on CBS North Carolina starting at 10:30. Thousands of people gathered on downtown Raleigh's Halifax Mall for what's become an annual Women's March. Elected leaders, activists, and pastors came together for what they called the Women's Rally on Raleigh. Their message came through chants and signs. People we talked with say the march is meant to hold elected leaders accountable.
We want society to continue to remember who we are, what we give, and what we bring to the table.
These are women's issues, but they're everyone's issues because what affects women affects everyone.
I was there covering the march yesterday, and many marchers told me that it's been a transformative year for women, particularly with the Me Too movement, but they say there is much more to be done. Raleigh was not alone. Cities across the country held marches on the one-year anniversary of President Trump's inauguration. People gathered in Charlotte to march in support of female empowerment and equality. Thousands gathered at the Lincoln Memorial in D.C., where congressional leaders urged more women to run for office. Crowds swelled in San Francisco, Denver, and Cleveland. And in New York City, a massive crowd of women and men wearing pink hats carried signs saying, quote, now is the time to be heard. This week, the sentencing phase will continue for the doctor convicted of molesting American Olympic athletes. Olympian Allie Raceman was one of several women who faced Dr. Larry Nassar last week. She's a member of a group of gold medal winning gymnasts known as the Fierce Five. Raceman has been very public with her story. She's asking the court to look at a bigger picture of abuse and power gone unchecked.
My dream is that one day, everyone will know what the words Me Too signify, but they will be educated and able to protect themselves from predators like Larry, so that they will never, ever, ever have to say the words Me Too. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go.
The Washington Post reports several women reported Nassar over the years, both to police and to trainers, but action was never taken. Michigan State University, where Nassar worked, insists it followed procedures. Motive unknown. That's the big takeaway from a preliminary report into the deadly Las Vegas shooting. That report included newly released photos from inside the gunman's hotel room. Police say they don't know why Stephen Paddock planned and carried out that attack, but they do not believe his girlfriend was involved. Police also say federal investigators are looking into someone else as a person of interest. New this morning, the Taliban is claiming an attack on the Intercontinental Hotel in Kabul, Afghanistan. That attack is now over after a 12-hour siege. Gunfire could be heard in the capital for much of Saturday. Officials say Taliban attackers stormed the hotel and took hostages. Residents and staff fled as the gunmen exchanged fire with security forces. All 3 attackers were eventually killed, but 3 others, a foreigner among them, also died. Another 7 people were hurt. Officials at the Harris nuclear plant are still trying to figure out why a siren went off. The siren in Apex sounded for several minutes Friday afternoon. Crews sounded the alarms again yesterday to try to determine what caused the mistake. Duke Energy, Wake County officials, and authorities with the State Emergency Management Office are now all working together to try to figure it out. Well, he's the head of the most profitable company in the world. And this spring, Tim Cook is returning to a place he has a lot of history with. He will deliver Duke University's commencement address in May. Cook is a graduate of Duke's School of Business and a member of the university's Board of Trustees. This week, officials in Benson are hosting a cord cutting to celebrate the town's new downtown Wi-Fi. People can already use the free wireless while they're dining, shopping, and doing business downtown. Town leaders used a $20,000 downtown revitalization grant to make that project happen. Well, speaking of new technology, investigators are getting a new tool to help them figure out what happened in traffic crashes. Drones hovered over a staged crash scene this weekend, collecting data at the Highway Patrol test track. RTI International, the DOT, and the Highway Patrol are all working together, testing how fast the machines can recreate crash scenes in different lighting situations. They want to keep learning how drones can help law enforcement officers do their jobs.
And also, we don't have these people standing out on the highway for as nearly as long as we did before. You know, it's not that safe for them to be standing out there.
The State Highway Patrol says if they get the results that they're looking for, they may use the drones more often at night, which could help clear crash scenes faster.
Good Sunday morning. Storm Team forecast.
Thank you, Kristen. Time now 8:12, and we've been talking a lot about the government shutdown and how it could affect you. After the break, how the CDC says the shutdown is going to impact its fight against a tough flu season. Plus,
last night it hit me, and then when I woke up, I knew Duke was the school for me.
One of the most sought-after high school recruits in the country says he will be wearing Duke blue in the fall, while Zion Williamson says he wants to play ball right here in Durham. Sharon, crews have been out here trying to clean up these trees all day long. You see these still laying here? They're not really a major priority. These are pretty small compared to some of the ones that we saw today, including one that fell on the Stark family house. It stood for about 200 years until that tornado came through about 5:20 this morning. The sight of a tornado's wake left Tiffany Boone and her mother Phyllis Stark with nearly the same reaction.
Holy moly. Holy camole.
They lived side by side and heard the tornado roar through their family farm.
And I heard the train sound coming through.
Boone brought in a stranger driving by. The storm stopped him in his tracks.
He actually saw the tornado and explained it as being green and twirling in front of him, and it really scared him pretty bad.
The tornado left destruction at nearby properties along its 1-mile-long path, damaging 2 homes and several barns and sheds. But most of the damage centered on the Starks' land.
I heard like the train, and then I felt a crash, and I could smell the fresh air, and I knew the tree had come in the house.
Had the tree fallen Friday night, Boone's 10-year-old son would have been sleeping in that room as he visited his grandparents.
Thankfully, it was a Thursday night, not a Friday night, because tonight he would have been in there, and that we would be talking a whole nother story right now.
The tree fell on the oldest part of this 1921 home.
I've lived here for 48 years, and my husband was born here. He's 75, so he's been here since he was born, and I've been here for 48.
Does that make this even tougher?
Yeah, but we'll get it fixed. It's material thing, so we'll get it fixed. So we're not going anywhere.
And you see the path coming from the house here. The National Weather Service says that this was an EF1 tornado. It reached maximum speeds of 95 miles per hour and was on the ground for about a minute, causing all of this damage. Live in Granville County, Justin Quisenberry, CBS North Carolina. Today, I learned how the suspect and the victim are connected, a possible motive, and that the suspect is connected to 2 other missing person cases. Gerald Pollard disappeared in January 2013. Nearly 5 years went by before the Person County Sheriff's Office learned info from an informant that led them to charge Scott Sikora with kidnapping and murder. Person County Sheriff Dewey Jones revealed to me today that the 2 men were brothers-in-law, and that may have factored into the motive.
And I think, Sikora, had basically gotten tired of, seeing his sister being verbally abused.
He says investigators have a recording from the informant, but no other hard evidence. At this point, it's all circumstantial evidence.
Circumstantial other than the recordings that we have.
And you feel confident that's enough to charge this man with murder?
Well, like I said, we through our search warrants, we actually went through a Superior Court judge for the search warrants, explained to them what we had. We actually discussed this case with our DA. And also we had to go to the magistrate before we could actually obtain the warrants to, probable cause, and they all agreed that we had enough to get to the point that we're at.
The sheriff says investigators also uncovered Sikora has 2 ex-wives who both went missing in 1983. So you're saying it's possible that the suspect in this case might have murdered other people?
Either murdered or had something to do with their disappearance.
When we spoke with you 2 months ago, you said this is one of the worst cases you've ever seen in your years in law enforcement. But at this point, there's no body, there's no crime scene. So what makes this the worst you've ever seen?
Again, it goes back to what is being sealed in the manner of how this occurred, and the detail and the amount of way this crime occurred and was carried out.
The sheriff told me that investigators actually interviewed this suspect 5 years ago because he's the brother-in-law of the victim, and now going back and re-listening to those recordings shine a new light on the information in those recordings that the sheriff believes could be helpful in court. We also reached out here at the detention center today to the suspect, but he declined to comment about this case and the charges against him. Live in Person County, Justin Quisenberry, CBS North Carolina. The short walk from your car to a restaurant can be bone-chilling on a night like tonight, but we wanted to know what it's like for the people who are out here all night long parking cars for other people.
Are you guys trying to valet?
Spiro Trance has the key to staying warm, even when the thermometers on the cars he parks shows the outside temps in the mid-20s.
If you can get layers and keep moving, it'll lock the heat in. It's perfect.
Problem is, colder temps mean fewer people out and about to Valley Park at North Hills.
How you guys doing tonight?
Where Trance works for Royal Parking.
It's pretty cold. That's how I'm doing. Normally we got lines like crazy. But yeah, we're just running parking cars.
And those who do use his service,
always, dude,
take note of the temperatures with cold, hard cash.
Last night, they were tipping like crazy. And we didn't have a lot of cars, which that part was kind of but the tips were pretty good for how many cars we had last night.
With the cold being one of the hazards of the job.
Oh my gosh!
Trance welcomes the relief of getting inside one of the warm cars he parks.
Oh my gosh! It's incredible. We had a guy the other day, he had the remote start. So he was downstairs in the restaurant, he hit the remote start and warmed it up for us before we brought his car down. That was so nice and beautiful. I love him.
A warm car and little snacks.
Oh, they gave me an extra piece of fortune cookie.
Help day in, day out.
Tomorrow's gonna be fun. It's 11 to 11 for me tomorrow.
But that won't be so bad if Trance believes that fortune cookie.
This coming Saturday will be an exciting time for you. Tomorrow, Saturday, 11 to 11, great.
In Raleigh, Justin Quisenberry, CBS North Carolina.